Welcome back, folks. It's ABC's of Home Improvement, and your co-host, Mike Ash. We're just discussing a little bit of biography about ourselves, so you get a better idea what we're all about and why we're on the air and why we enjoy talking to everyone. I was just discussing my background to the point where I am here today, working with those in the industry, kitchen cabinets or other industry areas of commercial and residential. But how I met Lee was back about 25 years ago. And let me introduce you right now to Liborio Durario, our friendly neighborhood architect.
Thank you, Mike. I'm glad to be here with you today.
You and I have been
I
co-hosting
can't believe it's
a long
25
time.
years. So you met me when I was like 2.
Yeah, I was rocking you all the time, kid.
Unbelievable. So it's been that long, huh? Yes,
Yeah.
we have had our share of fun, Mike, in the past 25 years when we got to know each other. It's unbelievable. The time flies and families grow and things change, you know. So
How many kids you have now?
So now, today, I have 3 children, Mike,
Today,
as
he
of
says
today.
it.
Because,
As of today.
4 years ago,
I know.
I only had 2.
We have lucky Greg these days.
Yeah, Greg came along, later on, and great to have him.
Well, he
Great to have
balances
him.
out the act. You got 2
yeah.
girls and a boy now.
He keeps you agile. Make sure you can get in and out of those sports cars and take a hit at 55.
So
yeah.
how about a little background with yourself?
Well, so let's see. Let's skip right to where I started working, Mike, because the rest of it is somewhat criminal in nature.
You don't want to go back that far.
Well, let's see. I started off as well as you, Mike, going through the elementary school phases and all the way up through high school. Played some sports and started a entrepreneurial club called the Frogmen's Association to raise funds for myself and 6 other guys at finance parties and so forth for people whose parents were away on vacation, and we supplied the beers and the drinks and the food to some of these parties, and there's a lot of wild times back then, Mike. So
well, they come and they go.
They come and they go, and then off to college. I went out to Kansas State University.
Were they ready for you, though, Lee?
The Little Apple, Manhattan, Kansas. They were not ready for me. When I arrived out there, and since they knew I was from New York, they figured, and my father was a police officer down in Gracie Mansion for many years, that they knew he was a cop, and they said they figured that I came from New York City, and they wanted to know if Kojak was actually really what it was like in New York City back then. That was the show, Kojak.
Right?
So I had to inform them that yes, it was, and therefore I already had the tough guy thing going out there just by a television show that paved the way for me. So it was a lot of fun. Disco was just hitting. It was 1978 when I was out there, so disco had made its way through the East Coast and the West Coast areas, and now it was stuck out in the Midwest, so I was trapped with it for 3 years.
So you're still one of those platforms.
I was glass dance floors and platform shoes, and actually back then it was Tony Lamas and Stutzens on the dance floor. But yeah, so we had 3 years out there at Kansas State.
So what'd you do? What'd you go to college for?
Well, I started out.
Besides to get out of New York.
Let's go back to high school a little bit. At a certain point in high school, you're allowed to pick your electives, and I was picking study halls, and my parents therefore picked for me mechanical drawing. So that's how I got started on my path to becoming an architect. It was by mandate by my parents. So thank you. I have to say thank you for that. But at the time, it was kind of trying because all my other friends were cutting out and running around, and I was stuck there. So I got thrown out of that class. All of the good things by the teacher because I was a troublemaker in there. But really decided that I liked it. So by the end of high school, I had taken all the classes that were available in drafting and created a couple of my own studios instead of taking study halls. That's what I did.
So you doodled on the cover mostly.
So yeah, that was it. I was drawing submarines and so forth, and designed my own house when I was a senior. That was my project, was to design a house and do an entire set of working drawings. So I was pretty much versed with all of the drafting and so forth. So when I went to college, most of these guys and gals that were in the program had never even picked up a set of drafting equipment, just decided they wanted to become architects. So I was making money doing some people's drawings for them initially because everybody as a freshman, some guys wanted to goof off and party, other guys had a heavy workload. The architectural program, the pre-architectural program for 2 years was an intense 23-credit program, and it was intended to weed out people that really weren't meant to be in the program.
Makes sense.
So I made sure that the people that were around me that I liked, I did their drawings so they got up to the next level with me.
Otherwise, you wouldn't be supported.
I met gentleman Scott Brewer, who was from Laramie, Wyoming, and his parents were in charge of they manufactured the oil drilling rigs that were running around throughout the Midwest and the Northwest areas up there, and he was his girlfriend was Amy Pillsbury of the Pillsbury family. So the drawings helped me out meet some interesting people of the the Midwestern area, and I traveled through St. Louis and Cheyenne and Laramie and up through the foothills and met some interesting folks because of that. And spent a lot of my time actually doing some artwork, doing sculpting out in Kansas. Limestone is the stone of choice out there because it's that's what the stone substructure is. So there was a lot of limestone available, so we were carving that, and I spent a lot of time doing 2-dimensional and 3-dimensional drawings, life drawing, figure drawing, and really investigating art. I was almost going into getting out of the architecture and going into art as a major, and the letter from home came and said that's absolutely not going to happen, and so I redirected myself back into the architecture program. And then from there I transferred. I wound up transferring. One of the professors, David Bell, at Kansas State, liked my work, and he transferred to RPI a year in front of me. And then I went in he asked me to come up to the school, and it was a big difference in tuition, so we worked out an arrangement where I wound up getting almost a full scholarship for the year up to Rensselaer Polytech.
Your father must have been very happy with that.
Yeah,
one.
that was a good one. That was good. He wasn't happy with the increase in the
Plane
tuition.
fare,
Yeah, the plane fare was cheap compared to the tuition. So needless to say, I transferred up into Troy, New York, and I spent the next 3 years there pursuing 2 degrees in building science and architecture. And again, meeting some interesting folks along the way. One of my friends, since I was a transferee, I met some of the guys that also transferred in from other programs, and one of them was George Tabbitt from the AA in London. And his folks ran a company called Freyland Limited, which is one of the larger conglomerates over in the UK. And I also met this gentleman named Jim LaCancellara, who his father owns a construction company down in Manhattan, which he now is working for. So there were some interesting folks there that I met, and circles of those people and their friends that we met also were very interesting. And then from there, Mike, I actually graduated. It took a while, and I got out.
Sounds like it took a long time.
I got a few degrees, though, so I grabbed some paper when I was on my way, and then I decided to go see what it was like to work. But I actually was working. I was working throughout my entire college career, so I'm going to throw that in there. When I was out of Kansas, there was a guy. I was in a fraternity for a year. My first year there, I met some guys from Somers, New York, Germantown, New York, Media, Pennsylvania, Wappingers Falls. So there was a local clique of guys, let's say, that were in this fraternity, and they pledged me right in because I was out in New York. And I spent a year there. Then I went off campus. And that 1 year at the fraternity, I did not really work per se. I made a few dollars here or there doing the drawings my freshman year. But then I moved off campus with a couple of guys from the house. And next door was a guy named Mel, and he had this truck called Big Red. And Big Red left at 7:30 every morning with an explosive exhaust boom going out of the driveway. So rather than, I was waking up, and I figured I didn't have any classes till 11 or 12. Most of my classes were afternoon studios. So I said, if I got to wake up every morning, I said, I'm going to ask this guy for a job. And so take me with you. If I got to wake up and listen to that thing, it takes you 10 minutes to clear the driveway. The houses were right on top of each other where I was living. So Mel hired me, and that's where I did my first walking on rafters and framing work and roofing and gutter work with him for a year while I was out of Kansas. And then I wound up getting a work-study program thing my last semester at Kansas State before I transferred in. And then when I went to RPI, it was work-study. So I always had something going on and something to make some extra income, which I would tell everybody that's the way to go. Especially since if you don't, there is no money to spend, and everybody else is running around. So
You don't get a chance to get out.
So
too
you don't
often.
get to do that, right? So we did that. Needless to say, again, my friends are all graduating. I still have 2 years left. They're all working at jobs making $30,000, $40,000, $50,000. I'm sitting there with $10 in my pocket and a toothpick.